working? Hi جماعة إيه الأخبار؟ I want to thank Photopia for amazing actually efforts and how they put Photo Week together. The tele version for Guna, I've been from the first one, Cairo Photo Week 1 and Cairo Photo Week 2, and now it's Guna, and I can see the progress. I can see like it's going somewhere like really good. Let's keep getting better and better, and impressive بصراحة the topics and the people and the speakers that, sometimes it's بحس اللي هو wow, it's overwhelming. So it's today's talk it's mainly about motion in photography and specifically portrait. Let me introduce why I actually got obsessed with portrait photography. So I started doing photography like almost now like 12, 13 years ago. And it started as a hobby by accident. I was like, okay, playing with the camera. I wanted actually to do films and movies, and then I was too young to actually have a knowledge or confident that I ابتدي أعمل أفلام. So I started with the next best thing was photography. And literally within 1 year, I got obsessed. I got hooked to photography. I couldn't everywhere I go, I take the camera with me. Everything I can see, I can photograph. For a whole year, I'm working like everywhere, just like taking pictures. And I destroyed a lot of cameras during this year. If you carry a camera with you everywhere, you get damaged. So the more I practice photography, the more I felt like there's a power actually in the still image, and there's a power in the medium of the photography. It's not. There's a big difference between a photograph and image and snapshot, and this is something I realized like years after actually I started doing photography. But there was always something. When I started like photographing food, architecture, interior, landscape, portrait, fashion, everything. I started like actually, and this is actually my advice for any starting photographer, like do it all. You have to know how to do it all. You don't have to be perfect in all of them, but somehow كله في الآخر be merged together. And you see actually you have like interior photography background, and when you're working on set, that adds up to your photograph. It's not normal separated different genres of photography. It's photography. So I started doing different kind of photography, and what I noticed within a year after this first year that most of my work was only human. I always want to photograph people, and just like whether through portrait or through fashion or whatever it is, or headshots, or like even company, any commission job I got, start to become towards I'm working with a human. And that's also something that kind of بعد شغل كتير. And I start, as a photographer, you're an artist, you follow what you like, you follow what you're interested in. And I start doing this, but then after a while I start questioning like why I actually just most of the time I work with human. And there is something to it that what interests me doing portraits or doing fashion, there is a mystery about this human beings are matter. And things got a little bit deep and serious that I started like reading in psychology and philosophy, and I started going through like how far actually scientists or psychoanalysts reached to the human psyche. And the more actually that I read about it, the more I take it with me to the shoots, and I start like actually, you read a lot about something, you kind of, embody it, and it start to actually, after a long time, it start happening. You don't actually think, oh, I'm doing this because it does this. It's flowing, And I started getting interested in portrait, and the more I do portrait, the more I have like amazing experience during the shoot. And not the photograph. The photograph is what I call it. It's like a trophy or an experience معينة. So it's not the photograph that was like for me yummy. No, it was the conversation, how interaction, and this dynamic that happens between. There's something that happens every time when I'm doing a portrait shoot, there is like a vacuum بيحصل. There is like something you feel like you lose sense of time. You're not really aware what's happening outside. You go in a certain zone, you and the subject, and it gets like really intense and gets like really also like intimate in so many levels, you know. So this intimacy, it's very interesting how people actually can open up and can actually really like show you who they are. And the intimacy, it's very powerful, like, because it's a very vulnerable state to actually, you know, like give a look and show something, a certain emotion that maybe for a long time you're just hiding. You don't feel it's the right moment. It's not appropriate to show this. And when you have this moment and this actually emotion or feeling shows up, it's something really precious. And I start like looking for this always. So the more actually I do shoots, and I thought like there's something there, like for me, like the first photo week I did, I was talking about the psychology behind the camera. And the last Cairo photo week, I talked about it and upgraded a little bit, and I talked in details about it. And they asked me to interview بعد that, so like, how far are you gonna go, you know? And I answered it simply, and how many people in the world, this is how far I can go, you know? Because every time you photograph someone, you have a certain kind of, you know, experience through this person that you photograph. I'm a kind of photographer, not that I was like, I want you this way, and I put you in that way, and I force you, and I move your hand, and I make you like, no, I'm kind of photographer, like, what I call it, hold the space. So I prefer to actually hold the space for the person and let them unfold and reveal what's inside. And the longer it takes, the longer you can see actual layers, and the longer it's more impressive in a human psyche. You can know someone for like 20 years, and you still meet them tomorrow, and you talk with them, and you see something still new in them. It's never finishing. So that's pretty much something that got me hooked. It's something that I felt like it's never ending. I keep working with people, and every time I keep finding more things and different experience. And when you actually imitate the energy or the frequency of the person, you get a little bit a different way of looking at life. مش حتى بس photography. So that was the first shoot I did, the Cairo Photo Week الأولاني. And in this shoot, I worked with May Hosseini, and I told him like, okay, I have this talk. I want to talk about the psychology behind the camera, and I put like a video camera while we're doing the shoot, because I was still studying my method of how the conversation affect and how the flow of the shoot it works. So it was interesting later, and I showed it in Cairo Photo Week, the first version, that there's some parts in the video you can, like, I say a compliment or I say something to her, and you can see like literally instantly her face in a split of a second, her face change, her expression change. So we started with this one on the right, and it took us a lot actually to reach like this, you know, like relaxed look. And there is like from this shot in the first one, because I don't want to repeat the last talks, I showed like 5 shots, like half a second before the shot. كل واحد ما بينهم like تقريبا half a second, and you can see like all these 5 shots is completely 2 different 5 people, like so different 5 people. They are not even the same, looks alike, but the impression and the eye and the posture and how her hand reacting with her face, it's always in the subtle details. And I always love this details. And when I'm working with someone, it's all about like reading how the existing in front of you and how the unfolding this like aspects of them, till you actually really find like that perfect shot through, like you go through from a persona to an ego to, if you're lucky, you get like briefly a moment of self. And that's what I was always looking for in actually doing portrait photography. I want to capture this true self. And for me, that's a definition of beauty, because beauty is different. You can say like, yeah, someone look like this, someone look like that. Like there's a lot of different definitions. But for me, if you get like a truthful, real moment from someone, that's the most beautiful they could be. It doesn't have to be like well staged or well put together or anything. It can be any moment in the day. But if you capture like very truthful moment, there is something always in the picture, that in the eyes or in the hand posture, that grabs it and makes it very special. It makes it like, and this special is beautiful for me. And that's like the other one, that's when we reached this like very, for brief moments of time, she showed this. And the beauty of it, I cannot tell you, there's something, that's why I like today to do like a live demo, because it's something I cannot really describe, and I can say, it's unspoken, you feel it, it's a flow, it's a dynamic. And when Mai got this moment of herself and she saw later the picture, there is a rush of confidence, there is a rush of like beautiful existence, and this is for me, that's what I'm like always looking for. It changed people, it makes people feel better. So when we reached this and she got like this, she got like a little bit like, you know, she got into her skin. She felt herself like really well, how she should. And from this we talk like, we went to this side, like, okay, let's now, we reached the self, let's go backward to a persona. And everyone has thousands of personas. I can be like talking now with this persona, and if my mom called, right in the second, my persona is gonna change. So we all have like thousands and thousands of persona that is switching all the time, and we are not even aware how fast and how it's changing from one second to another. So the beauty of it, when you reach the self moment, you can take this person to any persona. It can be, or like, it can be like an alter ego, you know, like you can create anything. And that's what happened in this shot. Like, if you look closely between these two shots, same person, the time between these two shots is not big, and like there's a whole complete different aspect that she showed in this picture. It even looked like, you know, the one on the right, like she's very feminine, she's very vulnerable, she's delicate, there's a dreamy look. And then you look at this one, it's very masculine, it's very strong. You know, if I looked at the camera when I was shooting, I was like, shit, it looks like David Bowie. I was like, literally, she doesn't even look like her. She looks like a David Bowie. And how dreamy the look here, and you look in this eyes, and it's killer. This eyes, the look is something there that it can be scary and it can be like, but it's intriguing. And that's, for me, it's such a beautiful experience, you know, that's what we're looking at, that's just an evidence of something that I experienced. Because I don't know if most of the people here, they hold the camera and they look through the camera, and you can see when something happened through the viewfinder, this moment that you feel like, yes, that I experienced something, and that's when you click, you always want to capture it. And that's what I'm gonna talk about later, is like when you feel this slice of time and you wanna hold it and grab it and capture it forever. It's something that it's a little bit intense, but I'm gonna talk about it briefly today. So what happened after, when I give the second Cairo Photo Week version, I think might be people attended this one. I was breaking down the method of how I can actually go through and unfold people up to reach the self moment, even down to the like how regular I take shots. So it's like almost like I'm working with like a monotone, like it's like a certain tempo. And if you hold this for long enough, it can actually create like some kind of hypnotizing effect on the person. And people, not hypnotizing, you know, like when you daydream, like it's like your eyes are open, but you're having a different visual, but it's a reflection of what's in your head, and somehow that reflects on your face. So so I talked about it, and when I talked about it, it was a beautiful talk, it was really amazing, and 1 month after, I didn't I couldn't do a portrait shoot anymore. It was for me like, you know, when I define myself as a photographer and I cannot work with a camera, I cannot take pictures, I cannot take something that I've been for years trying to perfect and try to make it even better and refined and slick, and now I don't want to do it at all. That was like, it's like identity crisis, because I call myself a photographer and now I cannot even work. I cannot take the camera and take pictures. And when you have a crisis like this, you cannot like really figure out like, oh, this happened because 1, 2, 3, 4. No, you kind of everything, your logical mind, everything shuts down, and like soon enough, within a week or two, you get depressed, and depression takes you lower and lower and lower and lower and lower, and everything starts getting affected because it's hitting you in the core of something that you believed in, you know? And it's not easy, and it's not something that you can take lightly, you know. And if you're an artist, if you most probably are a little bit sensitive. So we tend to make things bigger than it is, coming. So there was like the drama thing. I was like, oh my God, I don't want to do it, I cannot. And it's something that I was feeding on for years, you know. It's a horrible feeling. But you learn that it's also important. And you learn, like, what happened to me, I lost interest in something that I was trying to perfect for years for a reason. And like really super recently, I started realizing what was the reason. And I will keep it short, inshallah. So the thing is that I stopped taking pictures for like few months, and then I started like, okay, maybe I have a problem with cameras. So I decided like, many cameras that I have, I need to sell some cameras. I need to, you know, get rid of this, like, you know, going like, you know, free. And I started doing this, and then I was like, okay, I want to take pictures, but the camera for me, دي مشكلة حاجة بالنسبة لي. I experienced like, if you are a commissioned photographer, personally I have this problem. When I travel, I don't take camera anymore, because every time I look at a camera, it's a work. I cannot relax around cameras. I cannot relax around cameras. So I always, when I travel, I always leave the camera. I always don't want to take pictures, because every time I take a picture, there is this professional, like, commission photographers get activated, and it's like, oh yeah, too much, and you're not living, you're not enjoying, you are really into the shot, and that's a little bit sometimes limiting in your personal life and in your life. So I started taking pictures with a phone. I started, like, you know, messing around. I started actually, when I started doing photography, I started with a camera I took from my father, and it's analog camera, and I started like taking films back then, and I remember when I started doing photography, because it was a film, so every time I take a shot, I have a notebook and I write like shot number 1, focal aperture 16, shutter speed 1/125, and it's like, so, and I go develop the negative. And of course, I loaded wrong because I was starting, so everything is gone. So it kind of felt like, you know, I had this experience. So I said like, okay, let's get back to the beginning, you know. So let's experiment a little bit. And I started doing actually again like analog photography, and not just the analog photography as shooting on a film. Like for me, what I love about analog photography is the after you take the shot, is developing yourself, having the decision, what chemicals, how long, what film, and how you treat the film, and then how you scan it or how you print it. And that started like kind of bringing, you know, like again, interest in photography in a different way than the problem that happened or it caused because commission jobs. That camera became like, I almost kind of get traumatized for a camera, you know, for a while. So, but then I learned something through not just the analog. When I took a break and I got back, and this is the point, I learned something very important. That's what triggered my interest back. That we have to accept that camera can reveal words we cannot see. Banina. There's always, I had this kind of belief in me that a camera is a tool to record what I'm seeing, you know? And it's most of the time it's just a tool to get what you are experiencing, and you capture. And never really looked at the camera as it's something actually can reveal like words I cannot see like with my eyes, with my bare eyes. So that's pretty much what I'm experimenting with this phase. And that's pretty much what I'm gonna be actually doing today. And it's a little bit risky, but I'm doing an experiment live today. So, fingers crossed. But there's something there. There's something there when you take a photograph of someone still, like, and you freeze them, and then when you let the camera, you stretch the time a little bit, and there's something like a picture like this. This is you cannot see with your bare eyes. If I just did the jump, you can have pretty much our eyes and our brain show it to us in a certain way, like it's like a movie. You know, it's always moving. No matter how fast I can move, you're not gonna see when you stretch the duration a little bit, and you see like this kind of effect. And this is Marie jumping with fabrics in the studio. So, but it doesn't even, some of the picture, and there is a lot of beautiful pictures that happen on that test shoot, and it almost doesn't look like a human, you know. It's something takes you away from, you know, saying everything sharp. And sometimes sharp things can block you. You know, you cannot see much behind this sharpness. So that put a big question in my mind, and it's like, okay, like, what is photography then? So photography is so many things. Like what I wrote here, it's like, it's nothing to how you can talk and define photography. So photography, it's a little bit, it's like a record of time. So it's up to you how you record the time and how it. So it's pretty much is like whatever when the sensor is open, it record or capture the reflections of the subject in front of me. Okay, and also it's a still image. It's a slice in time. You know, so shutter speed. It's like as you really slice one frame from the time and you take it out. And there was lately, like, I read this book by Susan Sontag on photography, and I think it was in that book, I'm not sure, but I'll tell you like what it means, what the phrase that she said, like it's kind of something like every time you take a picture of someone is almost as you kill them in that exact moment and you present them in the one frame. And that's for me was like, whoa. It's like, you kind of, every time you take a picture of someone, you kind of like, you're looking at something, you know, like as you took something of someone. And that somehow it brought like huge responsibility. Like, you know, I felt like as a photographer, you're like a sniper. You're like shooting, and it's called shooting actually, you know, you're shooting people, you're shooting things, you're pointing, it looks like a gun, you know? And it's something that is very like, as a photographer, and that's like also like something we have to consider and we have to appreciate, like you cannot just run and just like take a lot of shots and that's it, because that's the problem that happened with me. The value of a picture or images start dropping, you know, because there's many of them, thousands and thousands of them. There is not this value, and this, when you take one shot of a certain moment, that is not going to happen again. Anyways, so portrait photography also something, I'm just setting a certain stones before Ashan. I'm going to talk about like woo-woo shit now after this part. I'm going to just like talk about like an experience at something, and then I'm going to try to show it to you live. So portrait photography, it's about aiming to actually capture a personality of someone or a subject, you know. So there is a lot of misunderstanding. I talked about this the last talk. It was like, it's a misunderstanding about like portrait photography. It has to be a face. Portrait photography is not a face. I can take a photograph of someone's hands and that can be a portrait, as far as it shows this person feeling or personality, you know. So portrait photography is something that it's usually misunderstood and been like really like framed under this idea of a portrait. Like personally, like this one for me, I love this shot because for a while I fell in love with this in-between shots. So I know, like, you know, when you're shooting, and this is something I realized when I'm doing like commission jobs, when you work and you take pictures and the model is posing for like, and you're having like perfect pose, and sometimes you take a shot in between while she's actually moving, and it's usually my favorite shot in the shoot. It's something, the in between, because there's something about this in between. Because if I'm standing like this, I took a conscious decision to show you something by this. But if I change to this, I'm showing you something else. But in between, I'm not really thinking about what I'm showing you. I'm thinking about my transition, where I'm going. And this is usually a very truthful moment This is usually a moment that it's, you know, it's in between. You're pretty much, your subconscious is leading you now. Because if I'm talking now, like, to everyone, like, you're not really conscious about your body. Like, we're not really conscious about your body. If you just focus about where your hands now, it's just gonna be like, what? Where's my hand and where are they? And it's like, but do you feel your feet? Were they? They took the decision on their own. And it's pretty much, we don't have like this subconscious aspect of us that it actually moves us. And that's, for me, it's very interesting, because there is something about motion that it reveals a lot about the person than anything can actually really. You can talk to someone and they can keep talking, saying a lot of things about themselves, but their movement is pretty much the main information that you're actually receiving. But the biggest thing that I actually trying to work with now, I'm trying to challenge photography as a medium. So photography is known as it's a still image. It's well known as it's like a frame of a sharp still image, and this thing, photography can be more than this, because whether it's a still image and if it's a moving, then it's a film. But there is something in between that usually people think as it's a default, as it's a problem. It's like when the shutter speed gets too long and the picture is blurry, and they tell you it's pixelated, and so this blurriness, it's such a weird space between photography and video, because video is multiple frames and photography is one frame, but you still can actually really capture motion, and it's so different when you capture motion in photography than you capture motion in video. Capturing motion in video, it shows something and you get certain information and details from, but when you capture motion in photography, that's what I was talking about, like it can reveal a different world behind a little bit what eyes can see, you know. That the thing that you feel when you're talking with someone and their body language give you information. You cannot say like, I like this person because, no, it's not about the words. It's about how they actually, you know, how you feel them in the space. So here's the very, very humble way to actually try to put it, because it's a long conversation, we can talk for days about it, but in a humble way, I'm trying to also pin it and make it short for you guys. So still versus motion photograph. So still photograph reveals details, you know, like it reveals details about the subject. When I showed you the first portraits, you looked at the portrait and you saw the texture of her skin and her eye and her hands and everything. You really got a lot of information from the still image. But then when I showed you actually the photograph in motion, the one that she's jumping, it reveals a certain presence of the person, and presence by the intention and how this person moved from one place to another. Okay. Also, still photograph, it frees time to specific moments, and this specific moment, it's like it's captured for eternity now. Like it's as a documentation, you know. It's a slice in time that you keep khalas forever. But again, like when you watch in the motion, it gives a little bit more freedom for the person to actually really show, you know, the expression and motion through the time and space. Also, like still images intrigues the viewer curiosity. It's something I always found it very interesting in photography, because every time you see a photograph of someone, part of you a little bit think what this person were before and what they're gonna go after, and there is always this in frame in between. It kind of create like this tension and curiosity. But in motion, it a little bit push photography to more dimensions, because you look at photography, it's a two-dimensional medium. It's width and height. It's just two-dimensional, and with light, you look at as flat on a flat surface, and with light you see like a little bit depth, and that's it, like just creating like depth, which creates like three-dimensional. But what happens when you actually add time to the picture? And that can push the photography a little bit to more dimension, to more depth, to how you see and how to perceive someone presence or someone motion or expression. It's something also like, you know, like this, this is a very, but you know, like to give you a better example, it's, you know, when you have like this shot of the sky at night for the stars, and you see like how beautiful the stars are and they're so far away, but then when you take the same shot with a long shutter speed, you get what? You get like a rotation, you start seeing lines, and when you look at a picture with the motion of the stars at night, you start feeling aware how Earth rotating. That's what I mean by still image and emotion. Still image, you can't observe the detail of what's in front of you as a subject, but the emotion give you like a relationship with who you are, where you are with this person or with this subject. It give you like this star analogy. It literally, when you look at the picture, you don't see like, oh, how beautiful the stars, because they are lines. But you feel like, ooh, Earth is actually rotating fast, you know? So it's a different impact and and that's what I mean, like, you know, like motion and time. And there's something that it's very important for someone to take photographs to just to be aware of this like this, how like one subject can move from one place to another, and how this can be actually documented. Is it better to actually freeze the person in the air and create this, like how this person is gonna land, or beautiful? Because even when the pictures of the dancers or ballet dancers, when they jump in the air, you look at a mid posture. You're looking how beautiful the form. But when you take the same action in a longer exposure, you don't see the posture. You see like the whole motion of it, and it's a different impact on the viewer. It's different impact than you show just like the posture and how perfect it is, or you can see like the whole experience of this dancer and how this dancer is moving within time and space. This is the example. It's like the thing for me when I start actually experimenting with this motion in photography, it's as I told you earlier, I was working more about like revealing more about the person and personality and seeing through and try to get like a truthful moment. And when I start working with the motion, there is another thing that starts appearing. It's shapes and movement. It doesn't even look like a human. It looks like it's more like a painting, like it's like a being. And this being, this something that actually when you're around someone, you feel this already, but it's unspoken. You cannot, there is nothing can really be said like, oh, that's 1, 2, 3, but still you can show this through pictures and motion when the camera actually, you know, when you allow the camera not to be a tool, it's just a camera. It sees actually more than we can see in different ways and reveals way more. So this is something also really like that. There's something about like the portrait photography, and when you do like this motion thing, it's almost like it feels like it's like a dance. It's like a dynamic between a photographer and a subject. It's just not one way, and it's not just like, you know, it's give and take all the time. It's very important for the photographer to actually be aware how the person feeling and how the person is. You know, being themselves or not, or comfortable or not, or they want to go or they want to stop. And photography, that's like something about the still image is very intimidating for even photographers when they get photographed. You put a camera in front of anyone, nobody likes to be photographed. Even if you're, you know, if it's your job, if you're an actor or anything, when you put a camera in front of anyone, it just they get self-conscious, you know. And this is something very about like the still image is very intimidating. But again, when you start working with this motion, you're not really focused about like and people get conscious because the details that can be appear in the picture, and people, that's why they feel intimidated by camera. But motion is not about like actually how the skin is like, or the eyes or the hair. It's about like how you actually really present in this time and this place. So there's different kind of aspect that happens when I was working with actually in the shoot with Marie. There is like something that's why it meant like movement can give you cues. There's sometimes I'm the photographer, I'm the one who's moving, and sometimes we're both moving at the same time, and sometimes she's the one who's moving and I'm still. And every time it's giving a different impression and different impact on the photograph and the results that happens. Part of you as a photographer, you know what you're getting, but still till now, every time I take a motion picture, like photograph with a motion, still always surprises. It's always surprising. So I'm showing you now examples, and I'm gonna take a pause for a little bit. We're gonna set up the backdrop, and we're gonna start doing the live show. While if anyone have any question, we can discuss by the time they are setting up. Can I have ممكن magic? So you can say. ممكن نطلع الباك اب. حد عنده أي سؤال؟ while we set up? Yes.
ايه اكتر فرق كان what is the biggest reason
عادي بالعربي برضه.
اوكي ليه بدأت تصور بانالوج مش ديجيتال؟
زي ما قلت لك I started actually with analog قبل الديجيتال. That's how I started. And I got like thrown in the commission jobs والشغل like the commission jobs. But then لما حصل الكرايسيس اللي حكيت لكم عليها دي that I couldn't خلاص ما كنتش قادر ابص على الكاميرا مش قادر امسك الكاميرا اصلا. There's something about the analog not shooting وانت مش شايف الشوت. You know, by this time I'm really past. I'm literally when I'm shooting digital, I don't really look at the camera because خلاص you know, like you know what's the focal aperture, you know the technicality, you are sure, you know, you're familiar with the camera and the lens. You pretty much, if you see the shot and you click, you know the shot exists. So it wasn't for me the intriguing part that like أنا بصور ومش شايف. No, اللي كان بالنسبة لي مسلي جدا و rejuvenated my relation with photography. It was the part of developing. The dark room aspect بس ده حاجة تانية يعني ممكن لو أنا نتكلم. But this is a whole another like aspect of photography. Control what the picture looks like from the decision ازاي انت اصلا بتdevelop النيجاتيف what chemical and how. And again if we want to extend it a little bit more وان انت تحط بقى تخش dark room وتactually enlarge الصورة وتطبعها what kind of paper. Contrast grade, الحاجات دي كلها. It's a lot of. That's for me that was very interesting from the moment that you take a photograph لغاية لما بتطبعها. There's a lot of steps that can go wrong, and there's many steps that you can really perfect. And every time you perfect and you get results, you feel the value. يعني when I'm printing picture in a dark room, I spend pretty much like almost hour or 2 hours. Just printing one picture. By the time this picture is في الآخر مطبوعة, there is a huge attachment to it. It's not just click and move on. You know what I mean. It's the more like if I put like one picture, if I put like one picture on the screen for too long and I leave you guys keep looking at it, and the more this is something about photography. The more you look at it, the more you can, you know, connect with it. The more you see details, the more you see like layers and layers.
So you discover the concept through the process ولا انت بتبقى بتخطط انت عايز تعمل ايه؟
What concept?
يعني لو انت مثلا بتعمل photography زي انت عارف انت عايز تطلع ده.
It's pretty much that part of it. You know, I'm going toward this, but so. That's the beauty of the motion photographs. And how again, في الآخر وأنا بصور while I'm working, if Marie should decide to do like this while I'm shooting, there is something I didn't expect. And that's what I love about this actually aspect. There is a freedom as a photographer. There's a freedom as a person being photographed. it's not, it's a different layers of beauty, it's different aspects you don't see. When you look at the picture like this, you don't see like, oh, how beautiful her eyes is. No, you're getting how she's feeling at this exact moment, and that's a completely different, you know. And my commission work is usually a fashion shoot. So it's all about glamour, it's all about like this beauty, and it's beautiful in every way and everything. But this is something else. Like, and I'm not even calling out, this is fine art. No. It's just a good photograph. Don't want to put it in anywhere. For me, it's actually more, it's beyond than it's just like, you know, that's why I was saying I'm challenging the medium of photography as a medium. How can I stretch the photography as a medium, and how photography can hold itself without, oh, okay, now I cannot do this, I have to do it in film, you know? Sure.
Okay, طيب since ان انت ابتديت to break the jinx that you had the evil one هنلاقي هو سامع بقى مش مهم
أنا برضه مش
مش عارف اوجعك طيب since you started this هترجع تاني تعمل الحاجات portray او mix between both of them ولا ده انت شايف هتعمل
Yeah.
What's
So
your plan?
the question was like, yeah, since you're seeing this in motion photography, are you gonna do still images? Of course, I will do still images. Yeah, I'm not saying motion photography is better than still images. Still images, it's very, very, very powerful medium. It's very strong, but for the purpose that I want to go for and what I want to get out of the subject or the people that I work with. For so many years I work in a portrait photography, and I read about like psychology and trying to, by conversation, to get things out of the people that I work with. And I felt like at some point when the crisis happened, I was like, no, that's not enough, that's not it, that's something, you know, it's not fulfilling. But this aspect of the motion photography, that's now serving what I want to show from people, you know. I don't want to really photograph beautiful eyes and beautiful body and beautiful hair and beautiful skin. No. I don't want to, honestly, I don't want to just photograph like a dreamy look that says thousands meanings. No, that's not what I'm looking for. What I'm looking for, I really, your presence and as a person, how you exist, how you move through time. This space, we are physical beings. We are governed by time and space. We cannot skip time and space. We cannot. Until we die. That's how that's the closest I could get to actually capture, you know, someone's existence. Yeah, sure.
First of all, thank you.
Thank you.
It's very brilliant. I love it. I was just telling him Christopher Nolan would be interested. The idea of instead of putting a moment, you capture a bunch of moments in one image. Yeah. And the question is, didn't you think of doing multiple exposure? You know, the image of it's almost the same concept, but I know that the motion thing blurs the unwanted details.
No, definitely. I love actually double exposure or multiple exposure, but multiple exposure and double exposure it's still frames that overlapping. That it shows you things, but it shows you something more artistic that it's for you to imagine. But motion photography, I'm not using still. I'm capturing emotion. I'm not capturing the person as, you know, the normal shape that you will actually you know, think about. Like something like this shot here, like it looks like a human, but it doesn't look like a human. You know, it's capturing. Now I'll capture something. It's not like it cannot be found in still image.
You can see it with your eye.
It allows you as a viewer to really get introduced to emotion, not a certain beauty. The beauty in the motion itself. Yeah. Any other question?
I have a question.
Yeah, sure. All right.
It's about the motion and the moments in between the character and the
Yeah.
Why do you choose it to be black and white? Why not?
No, we're doing it color today. Yeah, we're doing no black and white because I love black and white. And black and white, it's something I'm obsessed with, and it's easier to actually to show without, like they always say, like colors can be a distraction. You know, like if you really, especially in portrait, like it's very common to do a black and white portrait because you look more about you focus more about the texture, the look. Sometimes colors can be actually distracting. Definitely use colors in fashion shoots, but definitely portraits. It's black and white. It's just the elements. You take the element that can be a little bit distracting.
I have a question.
Sure.
Since you're a photographer, professional photographer, and you also dabble with psychology and philosophy, which I admire a lot. So I used to photograph years ago, and I started to pick it up again, and I feel this joy whenever you capture a good picture. There's this joy inside you. I'm just happy and I love it. I feel like I achieved something.
Yeah.
And I've been thinking all through the weekend why. I can't figure it out. Like I'm an amateur. I don't even sell them. I don't even do anything with them. I just love them. I love like having them.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? Why do we feel this joy?
It's a purpose. It fulfills something in us. You know, we see what we feel, pretty much. We don't see like, if I'm feeling horrible, this place is gonna be very miserable for me. You know, if I'm feeling happy, this place can be like party. You know, we see what we feel, and this joy that you feel like when you capture a beautiful picture, you capture it actually.
But I'm not happy.
Even the picture can be like, it can be melancholic, it can be anything. You reach somewhere inside and you capture it. We see like again, photography in itself. إحنا اللي إحنا شايفينه دوت. It's a reflection light over things. It's not the thing itself. You're still again seeing a reflection of something. So if this color, that means if you're seeing this color, that means that this thing absorbed all the energies of other colors and reflected this one. So that makes it, on paper, not this color. But you're seeing this color because that's not the energy of this color. You know, so it's bouncing. So every time you see something, it's not actually what it is, you know.
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Is this sort of photography commercial as well, or
Sorry again.
this type of photography commercial as well?
I don't want to put it like a certain category. It is a photograph. Like this, you're talking about this?
Yeah.
It's more of an expression, self-expression, or actually like I would like, if you want to put it under a big umbrella, I would put it under portrait. But it's not like it's fluid. It can be whatever, you know. You can apply this in an editorial fashion shoot. You can apply it in you know, architecture. You can apply it actually in landscape.
And where you apply? Where you just for yourself, or?
Yeah, it's again, it's something like what I said earlier. I hit rock bottom with how I'm loving photography and my relation with photography, and that was something that started like revealing itself, and it started like actually rejuvenating how I see. So it's more, again, it's more about the experience. That's why today it's a live demo. It's not about like the results as it is. It's about like the progress of seeing it. So pretty much what's gonna happen today, you're gonna see me and Marie working, taking pictures. She's completely standing as a human form in front of you here, but then she's gonna appearing over there like as a ghost, you know. So it's this kind of, you know, like it's interesting. Any other questions? No? Okay. We can start the live demo. Thank you, guys. Oh, okay. Hello. See you in a bit. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna stand still and Marish is gonna be actually moving. Yeah. It's beautiful. Nice. Nice. Are you guys seeing the picture well or no? It's too faded.
No, it's
Correct.
What? We're gonna try now like a different fabric and show you the different kind of effect and how like the different fabric can also change.
Abdallah, he has it.
So, yeah, the fabric. Yeah. So again, like the whole idea of like this shoot is like you seeing what's happening and you seeing like it's live and you seeing the results happening at the same time. I mean, whatever your eyes is seeing here, it's completely different when it is showing on the screen. It has like a different impact, and that's the whole idea. When I said like in the first slide, we have to accept that the camera can reveal words. We don't see it with our own eyes. So the whole demonstration today is just I want to show you how you can see with your eyes something, and how the camera can show something else that you cannot. We are not as a human capable to see it with our eyes. So we're gonna try like a different fabric now, so I can show you like different effects and how it can be appearing in the camera, and we'll wrap it up.
Want to see some smoke effect?
A little bit. لو ينفع ننور النور. بس خليه يعني مش كله، خليه الجزء اللي عندي هو اللي مطلوب. Thank you. Okay, now I'm gonna go through like some of the shots we did now, and you guys feel free if you have any questions. We can talk and discuss while we're actually looking at the results, because I think like some of the shots were like loading so fast. حد عنده أي سؤال؟
just gonna ask him if he was
So do a quick review and we'll be done. You guys seeing? Sorry?
Are you sharing that as a gift?
Yeah, for me, yeah, the whole idea of the live demo. It's first of all, it's a very interesting risk to take, especially like it's a topic that I'm actually really experimenting with الفترة دي in my photography journey. Again, the whole thing is just showing how camera can actually add to us. It's not like a tool. It's not like something. And this is the problem that I fell with earlier, that I deal with the camera as it's just a tool to actually take whatever I feel or whatever I like. And if you give a little bit freedom to yourself as a photographer, or you give a little bit freedom to the camera or the person you work with, there's some shots that you cannot actually, even if you have like a premeditated idea about it, it's still sometimes the shots comes like really out of the blue. You don't see like how it can actually manifest. And if you try to repeat it again, like زي ما بيقولوا اللي هو صعب جدا تكرر نفس الصورة مرة ثانية. And imagine with emotion is even much more harder. It makes the shot a little bit more precious. It shows the existence and the presence of someone, and this is something for me. It's very important, and it's very has to be like really showed in the most proper way. فيش حد عنده خلاص أسئلة؟ واو. أنا كنت هكروت وأقفل. اتفضل. سوري؟ لا مش سامع. بعمل ده إيه؟ Yes, yeah. يعني I don't want to like go قوي in أقلب دلوقتي, بس it's even better. It's even better, like even with the digital, I don't know the outcome, but I'm seeing kind of the outcome بيحصل while I'm here. With the analog, there is even more tension and the more family. It's like how the shot is gonna look like, and then when you develop it in the negative, you cannot wait to actually see or scan it or print it. And when you print it, it's like it's something. It's like a surprise. Always, fam. It's like Christmas. yeah. Again, like the experience itself. Like all the talk today, I'm talking about duration and how you can extend the duration. Even now, like to have a results from analog, extending the duration of having the results does have a much better effect. Further.
Do you have like a pre-plan in your mind, and accordingly you instruct the model and move with the camera, or it's just random?
No, this I tested before and I have experience with. I know like okay, I choose the colors, I choose like whatever the lighting is gonna be like. I tell the model what it's having. Like for this today, usually if this is happening in the studio, if I'm working with someone, I don't really tell much, I don't really actually give them instructions. I put them in a certain mind state and let them actually, have the freedom to express themselves, because that's the whole point of the expression, So yeah, it's organized case.
Because I see you move your hand.
Yeah.
You're not.
Yeah. Again, it's. That's a part of that's the part of the beauty of the motion in the photograph, because you as a photographer, you're actually your movement is also showing in the picture. And yeah, some of the shots I can stand still and she's moving, and some of the shots she's standing still and I move, and some of the shots we are moving at the same time, and it's creating every time a different results and different impact, and it depends also the direction of the movement. Thank you. حد عنده أي سؤال تاني؟ مين؟
We done this concept work in the client of this fashion project, and we didn't know what the outcome would be, and we just.
Yeah, I pushed it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I pushed it. I pushed it. Yeah, اللي هو يعني خلاص to the point almost يعني فاهم the whole job is out. عندي لقطة في الآخر. It's it's again like, commission jobs, but again like as a photographer or you're an artist or doing something you like or you're passionate about, you cannot help like implementing this in your work, because it's every time I look at anything it's like I look at it in that way, and it's like an obsession. You have an obsession of a look or aesthetic, and you're falling in it, and you cannot stop sometimes. You keep pushing people around you to do it.
Yeah, of course. I'm speaking like as a creative. Okay, like maybe in a certain case we want to control the outcome, and like, because this is our work, it's gonna be in our face, and you saying this, your favorite
What I would do different a little bit with the commission shoot, I would actually work with a flash and continuous. Because see, like here with the continuous is creating this motion in the picture, but once if you have a strong source of light as a flash, the moment the flash will go off, it will freeze this in between motion, and then you can have if there is a product or if there is something that you want to highlight, you can still satisfy the client and deliver something that في الآخر you're not sending them a smudged picture, All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Really lovely weekend. And I want to thank Marwan, I thank Photopia, I thank GLC, and thank everybody who's part of this. See you in the party.